Okay, just a couple of things at the top here. You hopefully have seen a statement we just put out by the Secretary condemning yesterday's terrorist attack in Abu Dhabi that killed 3 innocent civilians and targeted civilian infrastructure. We remain committed to the UAE's security and ability to defend itself. And we stand united with our Emirati partners in defending against all threats to their territory. And then last week, I think you may have seen Secretary Austin designated the Defense Microelectronics Activity as a Center for Industrial Technical Excellence. This designation allows greater utilization of small runs of DoD critical microelectronics and semiconductors both inside and outside the DoD. It also allows the use of public-private partnerships that provide opportunities to promote partnering agreements between depots and private industry. Microelectronics, I think, as you all are aware, is a DoD critical mission area, enabling many key weapons systems, and we think this is a positive step forward to help ensure that critical mission area stays relevant and viable into the future. And with that, we'll go to questions. Bob, I think we got you on the phone.
Yes, thank you, John. A couple quick questions. The statement on the Abu Dhabi attack says the U.S. is committed to helping UAE defend itself. I'm wondering if you can put something concrete behind that. Is there some consideration of increasing some sort of air support, air defense support, I mean, or something of that nature? And the second question regarding Ukraine. So where do things stand right now in terms of plans for further arms transfers to Ukraine or perhaps increasing in-country training, that sort of thing?
Yeah, Bob, thanks. On UAE, I don't have any additional announcements to make today. I think, as you know, we have a very robust defense partnership with the UAE, which does include foreign military sales of various different types of weapons and platforms. And so that will continue, of course. And obviously, we're in constant discussion and dialogue with our Emirati partners about ways we can strengthen that defense partnership, but nothing today. I think today it was really important. The Secretary felt it was important to make clear that that just like elsewhere in the administration, we take these attacks on the Emiratis seriously, and we're going to continue again to look for ways to make that defense partnership and their ability to defend themselves stronger and better. On Ukraine, nothing to announce today either with respect to additional defense articles. As we've said all along, we're going to continue to look for ways to help Ukraine defend itself, and that does include additional security assistance. But again, nothing to say today about that. On trainers, I think, as you know, Bob, the Florida National Guard has members currently deployed to Ukraine in this rotating advise and assist capacity, and they remain at work alongside their Ukrainian counterparts, again, advising and assisting and helping train. And we expect that mission will continue. Now, obviously, as I said last week, we're going to continue to watch the situation on the ground, and if we need to make decisions for force protection purposes, we'll do that. But there are no planned additional rotational troops to Ukraine at this time. No changes to what the Florida National Guard is doing on the ground. Janie.
Thank you, John. Do you know the North Korea first time the missile launches? Does the United States have what kind of missile North Korea launches?
Because you talking about the one on the 16th, 2 days ago?
Yes, I think 17th.
Okay.
In Korea.
A couple of days ago. Anyway, we've assessed them as ballistic missiles, and we're still running the traps on that. So I don't have more detail than that.
South Korean defense ministry said that attempts Army tactical missile system KN-24. Are you confirm that?
No, I cannot.
Because South Korean defense minister, they announced yesterday that, and also South Korean Minister of Defense announced that North Korea's recent missile launches assessed as a threat and a serious military threat to ROK. My question is, are you devaluing these missile launches because they don't threaten United States?
Are we what about these launches? What was the verb you used?
Yeah, devaluing.
Devaluing.
Yes.
We're not devaluing anything, Janie. Not at all. And we have a treaty alliance with the Republic of Korea. We have actual, tangible security commitments to the defense of South Korea. We take that very seriously. So there's no devaluing and at all. We're obviously, and we have as an administration, condemned these missile launches and called them out for what they are. Clearly violations of various UN Security Council resolutions and dangerous to the region, certainly dangerous to our allies and partners, and we're taking that very seriously. There's no devaluing of anything.
Because Indo-Pacific commander always said that where U.S. is not threatening, so as far as
We're not what?
Indo-Pacific statement, commander statement about the North Korean missile launches, they said that there's no threatening the United States. So that means our neighbor alliance countries so concerned, so worried about the North Korean missiles. But it seems like if North Korea not threatening the United States, you don't care, right?
No, that's not true. That's not true. And I would encourage you to look at the rest of the statement that the Indo-Pacific commander continues to put out in these cases. I mean, he talks about the destabilization to the region and the threat that it poses to allies and partners. In this case, or in that case, he wanted to make clear, I think, to the American people, which they have a right to know if these things are posing a threat to the homeland. But I think you can, again, go back and look at his statements, and he's very clear about the threat that this program continues to pose, not only to our ally in South Korea, but to others of our partners in the region. And we're not, we're continue to take this threat and this improving program of Pyongyang's very, very seriously.
Is this missile is interceptable or not?
I'm not going to get into any more specifics of our assessment on these individual launches from the podium. I won't do that.
Thank you.
Pierre?
Thank you. Do you assess that the attack yesterday on the United Arab Emirates was a threat to U.S. soldiers and U.S. citizens in the area?
It was certainly a threat to our Emirati partners, and that's enough. But we know of no U.S. casualties as a result of this, and we're still, taking a look at the attack itself. So it's difficult to say positively that there was no threat to U.S. Personnel or American citizens on the ground. It was clearly designed to go after this particular facility.
We understand that the U.S. facilities in the United Arab Emirates and maybe also in Qatar were able to detect the attack. Why is it that nothing has been done to stop it?
Again, I'm not going to get into the operational tick-tock here, Pierre. We continue to work with our partners in the region to make sure that they have robust enough capabilities to help defend themselves, and that includes the ability for early warning and indications. As we've seen, even in places where we ourselves are attacked by these UAVs, even the best of systems isn't necessarily going to get every single individual threat. And we continue to see, in this case it was the Houthis, supported by Iran, but we continue to see in Iraq and Syria, militia groups supported by Iran sort of choose this tactic, this way of conducting attacks using UAVs. And it's an evolving threat and that we are constantly trying to make sure that we can stay ahead of. But it's a difficult threat to constantly make sure you can stay ahead of. So while we'd love to say, we have 100% coverage in every single one, that's going to be a very difficult thing to achieve as the threat continues to evolve. And evolve, quite frankly, Pierre, in real time. Yeah, Fadi.
Okay, John, so you just said that the Houthis, supported by Iran, were behind this attack that Secretary described as terrorist. However, he did not assign any blame. He didn't mention the Houthis. So first, are you, based on your assessment, are you confirming that the Houthis actually...
I think I've spoken pretty clearly to it.
So okay, and based on that, are you able to say whether the weapons used, the system used in this attack and the type of the attack mark any development in the Houthis' capabilities?
I'm not going to get into intelligence assessments,
Okay,
Fadi.
were the U.S. forces stationed in Al-Dhufra Air Base in the UAE able to share any early warning with their Emirati?
I'm not going to talk about operational details.
Is the U.S. Last question, since I'm not getting answers.
No, you're getting answers. I'm answering all your questions.
I'm not sharing. You're not sharing anything. That's the answer. So, are the U.S. forces in the UAE now supporting their Emirati counterparts in any way, shape, or form in dealing with this attack?
I know of no requests by the Emiratis for U.S. assistance in terms of investigating and responding. Obviously, as I said, and as the Secretary said, they're close partners, and if they desire U.S. assistance, I mean, clearly we'd be positively disposed to look at that, but I know of no requests for support right now. Let me go to the phones. We've got lots of folks on the phones, and I don't want to ignore that. Carla Babb.
Hey, thanks, John. Quick question about some Afghan Army helicopters. There were about a dozen that went to Tajikistan and Uzbekistan on August 15th, and now the Taliban is looking to get them back. And I'm just wondering what the Pentagon thinks about that and where the Pentagon feels that those Army helicopters should go. Thanks.
Still working out the disposition of those helicopters, Carla. I don't have an update for you on any decisions about how they will be handled, but I think it's safe to assume that they will not be sent into Afghanistan to be used by the Taliban. But as to what they end up doing and where they end up going and who ends up with them, we're still working our way through that decision-making process. Sylvie, you there?
Hello, yes, sorry, I didn't hear you were calling me. Russians have announced that they are going to start new exercises with Belarus. Do you assess that there are some military troops movements near the border which are consistent with these exercises, and what is your comment?
Yeah, I try not to comment for the to the operations and exercises of another country. They can certainly speak for themselves in that. What I would tell you, Sylvia, is we continue to see a sizable force presence by the Russian armed forces in the western part of their country, around the eastern border and northeastern border with Ukraine. It continues to be concerning to us. There's no sign, no indication that the Russians are willing to de-escalate. And as we said, well, as our diplomat said more than a week ago, that one of the things that we were willing to talk to the Russians about was changing the scale and scope of our exercises if and only if there was going to be reciprocity on the Russian side. Again, we see no signs of de-escalation, so we're going to continue to try to pursue the diplomatic path, and as an administration, make sure that we're ready should that path fail and should there be another incursion of Russian forces into Ukraine. Oren?
You've been watching Russian movements now for a few months. Is it any clearer what President Putin's goal is here, and what other options do you have either to deter Russian action or respond to it, if you could detail any of that, and then a follow-up?
I think it would be difficult for us to say with specificity and certainty what we know Mr. Putin is driving at here, what his actual goals are. He clearly is building up a force posture there that provides him multiple options. It's just difficult to know right now what options he's going to choose. And we still don't believe that he's made a final decision. Of course, the option that we would prefer is for him to de-escalate, to take the tensions down. And of course, one of the easiest ways to do that would be to remove some of that force presence. That's not happening. And I'm sorry, you had another. I missed another one.
What other options does the U.S. have either to deter or respond?
So look, I think the president has spoken to this very, very clearly about severe consequences, and that includes in the economic domain. And I obviously won't speak to that with great specificity here from this podium. What we are prepared to do, and what we've said publicly, is if there's another incursion and if our NATO allies request capabilities and support and resources for their reassurance as part of NATO, we will be positively disposed to consider those requests and to see what's possible. And so we're ready to do that. We've thought through various permutations here, and we're ready to do that if asked.
One more quick question. Russia's demands, if I'm not mistaken, also included demands of Scandinavian countries not joining NATO, NATO not moving eastwards, for example, with Finland.
Yeah.
Is there any concern or suspicion that a Russian move on Ukraine might be accompanied by some sort of action against Finland or other countries there?
I wouldn't speculate. That's that's a couple of jumps ahead of where we are right now, Oren, and I wouldn't speculate. I certainly won't speak for Russian intentions here. We're focused on the issue at hand, which is making sure that Ukrainian sovereignty is respected, that there's not another incursion, and trying to find a way, as an administration, finding a way to diplomatically de-escalate this. And we still believe that there's room for diplomacy. We've heard the bluster and the rhetoric out of the Russian side. We still believe that there's room for diplomacy to succeed here. And here at the Department of Defense, we want to provide all the time and space that can be provided to our diplomats to do that. Let's see. Mike Brest, Examiner.
Thanks, Mr. Kirby. Two quick questions. The cigar report that was declassified today, I was wondering if you wanted to comment on that, specifically as it relates to the Afghan Air Force's inability to sustain itself without U.S. assistance.
So, I mean, we're aware of the Special Inspector General's recent re-release of a newly declassified report from January 2021 on the status of the Afghan Air Force. And I would remind this was from January 2021, which also included data that was well before that time frame. And what remains clear is our longstanding insistence and open acknowledgement of three key tenets surrounding the importance and the long-term viability of what was the Afghan Air Force, the important role that they had in supporting the ANDSF on the ground, the need and the importance that we recognized of continued funding and maintenance, logistics and training support, which again, Special Inspector General found as well, and the challenges, of course, faced with continuing such support amidst a withdrawal of on-the-ground forces. The specific challenges that were presented in this report were well known to us. In fact, were being actively addressed by the department and our coalition partners as presented by the responses that we issued to the Special Inspector General's three main recommendations. And these were responses made by Headquarters U.S. Forces Afghanistan, the Combined Security Transition Command Afghanistan, and NATO Special Operations Command Afghanistan. What we said at the time, nothing changes about that. As we were heading into the summer, it was an Air Force that we and our coalition partners helped make much more capable. That they were flying the majority of missions in support of their troops on the ground, that was also true. And that they had capabilities far more advanced than they had ever had before, and that the United States was going to continue. This was the original plan, of course, was to continue our support for the Afghan Air Forces. So we absolutely recognized the shortcomings and the issues that the Special Inspector General made back in January of 2021. We were addressing those, and we made we made it very clear that we were going to continue to try to find ways to make the Afghan Air Force even better. Tony Capaccio.
Hey, John, thanks. I had two quick questions. One on DoD health issues. Is there a contemplation of going to health condition Delta? And what are the personnel implications if you go to health condition Delta?
There's no plan right now to go to Delta, Tony. I don't have a list of the criteria of what Delta would require, but we can certainly get that for you. That's easy. I just don't have it with me, so I don't want to speculate. Obviously, it would. It's more severe, more strict restrictions on people here at the Pentagon. But I'm not aware of any discussion to move from Charlie to Delta at this time.
Quick Ukraine question. Last week, a Russian reporter asked Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Yabkov in an interview that was broadcast on Thursday whether Russia was considering deploying military infrastructure in Venezuela or Cuba. He responded, "I don't want to confirm anything or rule anything out." Question for you. Has DoD or Southcom picked up any indications that Russia intends to move any military hardware to those nations, or that officials of those nations have invited such a move from Russia?
Well, I'm not going to speak about intelligence issues here from the podium, Tony, and I'm also not going to respond to Russian bluster about something like that. I would just point you to what Jake Sullivan said last week, and that is that we take our responsibilities to defend this country and our national security interests very, very seriously, and we will continue to do that in whatever case that those interests are going to be threatened by anybody. And I think I'd leave it at that. Tara Kopp.
Hi, John. Thanks for doing this. One on COVID. At Force Protection Charlie, what's the guidance for DoD civilians on attending conferences or official travel? Is that all on hold for right now? And then I have one on Ukraine.
It's allowed right now, and again, Charlie applies to the Pentagon reservations. It's not the entire Department of Defense, but the only travel that's permitted is what's considered critical to national security. So, participation in conferences obviously is put on hold, and that applies to everybody, uniformed and civilian alike.
Okay, thank you. And then on Ukraine, in your earlier responses, you noted that change is possible if force protection measures make it necessary. Is it also possible that DoD would be withdrawing U.S. troops from Ukraine, or is it just to augment those and guarantee better force protection in case of an incursion?
That we'll do what we need to do to keep our people safe and secure. And I don't want to jump ahead of where events are right now or speculate about possible outcomes. But we will do whatever we need to do to make sure our people are safe and secure. Steve Bynum, military.com.
Thank you, John. Hey, with all the issues on Texas's border mission, soldiers aren't getting paid on time, they're running out of water, they're getting in trouble drinking as such like that. Is there any authority for the Pentagon to investigate the state mission, or is there any want to do so or step in any way on that?
Not aware of any effort to investigate the border mission that the Texas governor has ordered his National Guard under his authority to conduct. I'm not aware of it. Obviously, we've seen the press reporting about some of the issues there. Whether a National Guardsman or woman is in Title 10 or Title 32 status, we obviously are concerned whenever we see reports about behavioral conduct issues that are detrimental to good order and discipline, but I know of no efforts or no design right now to investigate those. I'll go to a couple more, and then I promise, Goyle, I won't forget you, buddy. All right, Heather from USNI.
Thank you. I was wondering if there's any update on the DOJ's review of the injunction that was ordered by the federal judge in the case of the Navy's Special Warfare Community and vaccine mandates.
Ellen from Synopsys. Couple more seconds there, Ellen. Okay. Let's see. Kelly from Nexstar.
Hi, John. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear us okay?
Yep, I got you.
All right, great. Just an update since Friday regarding the false flag intelligence. Is Russia making any other movements to provoke an invasion? Any kind of intelligence that you're seeing that you could share?
Yeah, again, we're mindful of being careful about talking about specific intelligence. I would tell you, again, without getting into too many details, we continue to be mindful of indications that the Russians will look for opportunities for what we call false flags to create the appearance of or an impetus for, a pretext for them to launch an invasion. So what we talked about last week, we still believe is valid, but I simply wouldn't go into more detail than that. Jared Suba. Okay, Jared, we'll come back to you. Go on.
Thank you. Two questions, please. One, going back to Texas incident. Pakistan's Prime Minister Imran Khan said that Dr. Siddiqui in Texas federal jail is a political prisoner, and I will do everything in my power to get her out of the country. And he never said that whatever incident took place, British, citizen, of course, background is from Pakistan, but he never said or condemned the issue. My question is, what message you think Secretary have for the terrorists? Or do you believe, I'm sorry to interrupt you, do you believe this is a political jail for her for 83 years, and she was, of course, caught in Afghanistan for doing some terror activities?
Yeah, the department's not going to weigh in on a legal law enforcement issue, Goyle. I think you can understand that. We take very seriously our responsibilities to defend this country, our national security interests, and our people, and that does mean continuing to conduct counterterrorism operations where and when needed, and that's our focus, and we're going to continue to do that. The only thing I would say about the events in Texas is to I think, and you just have to, when you look at it, just congratulate those law enforcement personnel, the FBI, local law enforcement, who work so efficiently and so well to get everybody out safely. I think that's remarkable, and we obviously extend our thoughts to the community there, as well as specifically the Jewish community. So, but beyond that, I think we'll let the Justice Department speak to this.
And John, going back to Afghanistan, Afghanistan's newly Taliban government is seeking recognition from the military and other powers and countries to recognize them. But at the same time, what promise they made, the Taliban government, to the Pentagon and to the global community, they are not holding their promises, and they are still after the innocent women and children and all that. So but my question is, you think Pentagon is going to recognize them as far as military power is concerned, or military support is concerned? And again, what is the Secretary's message for the Afghan Talibans as far as supporting terrorism?
State recognition is not the purview of the Department of Defense, so I'd refer you to our colleagues at the State Department to speak to that. The Taliban have not been recognized as the official government of Afghanistan. And what we would say is, I think what everybody has said across the administration, that we want to see human rights, civil rights. We want to see the promises made by the Taliban actually delivered in terms of how people are going to be treated in Afghanistan. And separate and distinct from that, here at the department, we're going to stay eyes on to what's going on there. And again, back to my earlier point, we have serious, significant counterterrorism responsibilities. And we have over-the-horizon capabilities that we can avail ourselves of. And we're going to continue to make sure that Afghanistan doesn't serve as a safe haven for an attack on the homeland again. Yeah, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Question on the Africa Sahel. As you know, France is scheduled to wind down its Operation Barkhane counter operation in the Sahel the first quarter of this year, and then gradually draw down troops from about currently 5,000 to 2,500 by next year. So last year, September 2021, Secretary Austin, he had a phone call with France's Armed Forces Minister Florence Parly, and he assured her that the Pentagon remains firmly committed to supporting France's counterterrorism mission in the Sahel. So how will France's reducing drastically its amount of troops, cut in half, impact on the U.S.'s support for this counterterrorism operation? Will they increase their support or pull back?
I think it's too soon to tell. I mean, and I certainly would refer to the French Ministry of Defense to speak to their operations and how they're going to conduct them. But nothing will change about our commitment to continue to support France in these efforts. So broadly speaking, that doesn't change. How they change their footprint or their operations is really for them to speak to. But the Secretary was very clear, and we've been consistent. We're going to continue to support them as they need it. And as their needs change, regardless of footprint, and as their needs change, we'll adapt our support to best meet their requirements. And frankly, ours too, because we have a shared security interest in dealing with terrorism threats there in the Sahel. Does that answer your question? Okay, I got to go. Thanks very much. I think I got to everybody on the phone. Yes, I did. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later this week.